Hey, what's up, everyone? So I've been getting some questions just about some double stroke stuff, opens versus closed, different note values, technique stuff. I'm going to try to be kind of comprehensive but also shorten this video as I can. I will hold up this page that you guys can refer to, pause on, and get an idea of a great page for some exercises. So if you look at the top of the page, you're going to see your examples of different note values for how long your roll structures take up. If you have a whole note, we know that's 4 beats, takes up a whole measure. If you have a half note, takes up 2 beats. You can think of 2/4. Then it goes through and you've got a dotted, you've got a quarter, and you've got an eighth. Depending on how many slashes are through the note depends upon what type of note value you're playing. We know that 2 beams connect 16th notes, right? So if you have 2 slashes through the note, that denotes a 16th note. If you have 3 slashes through the note, that denotes a 32nd note, okay? The first exercises are just eighth notes, straight double strokes the whole time. Right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Number 2, we've got single strokes, then double stroke 16ths. 1 and 2 and 1E and a 2E and a right, left, right, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. The next one is all 16th notes, kind of similar to this one if you practice it, but just sustaining 16ths. Then we get to the 32nd notes. The first one has 16th notes and 32nd notes, single stroke 16th notes, double stroke 32nds. Right, left, right, left, right, left. So 1E and a, 2E and then 32nd notes. Right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. Then we get to our last one where it's a 32nd note roll, where they show you the sticking of it. Then they show you how it's notated in music in this part, the very last one. Okay, this is a great page to refer to. And as I go through this quickly, that's what I'm referring to in my mind and my syllable counts, just to give you a base of what you can work off of, okay? First and foremost, delineating between your closed strokes and your open strokes. I see a lot of people play one type of double stroke roll, or they're always using closed strokes for everything they're playing. So with their hands, it's oftentimes a tighter hand too, where you want to see that space in your hand there. You want to play the back of the stick, not the front of the stick and relying on the weight of the front of the stick, but playing the back of the stick. The weight of the back of the stick, that's where all the control's at. And we know that the front of the stick's going to follow what you put into the back of the stick, right? So closed strokes is where you're letting the rebound stroke do the work for you. See, my wrist isn't moving hardly at all. I'm using a little bit more fulcrum pinch and letting the weight of the stick do the double stroke for me. Okay? Different from open stroke, where you're using a wrist finger motion. And you should practice this in the air and not even need a surface to play your open strokes. Okay? Because what we're doing is we're using wrist and fingers in conjunction. It's not a wrist with a tight gap here. It's not a fingers. It's a wrist finger. Wrist fingers. And you'll see that I use Weckle grip. The reason being, it leaves your hand way more open. Way more open and relaxed once you get used to using it. If you're pinching here in your fulcrum point, the tendency is you're only going to use your fulcrum point for your rolls and leave out those back fingers. I see a lot of people even playing the rolls like that, or just using their front 2 fingers while their back fingers kind of dangle there and aren't doing much work. That kind of a thing, where they're really just pinching in the front and they're just doing a sustained buzz roll while pinching in the front, oftentimes with a closed hand too. You don't want that so much as you want a looser grip. Use that nice little drummer's V. Get that angle in both your hands. Look at both your hands to make sure they're the same. You don't want one hand in German or matched position while one's in French. Or you don't want to bring one stick height up to here and one up to here. You want to make sure you're looking at your hands. You've got that nice drummer's V, and you're using wrist and fingers. Trying to get both my hands in the shot here. Trying to do this in portrait mode so I could take some shorts out of it too. But difference between closed and open. Okay? And really try to focus on your technique when you're working on your open strokes, guys. It's really important. You want to try to get your opens up to 30-second notes almost as fast as you can get your closed strokes. Okay? So practicing with the page in mind, the first one would just be eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. That's 8 bars of 2/4. It goes by that fast. Okay? Number 2 is where we have eighth note single strokes, 16th note double strokes. 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a. Okay, 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 and 2 and 1 E and a 2 E and a. Okay, that's the next one. Number 3 is the one that has sustained 16ths through it. If you want to play that one, that's a good one to practice to get up to your 30-second note values. You're just sustaining 16ths the whole time. Open strokes the whole time. No closed and using this fulcrum and that kind of stuff where like every single double you play is a closed stroke or buzz roll, basically double stroke. You want to rely on your hand technique rather than having to rely on a surface and rebound. If you practice in the air, strengthen those fingers, get it to the point, and if you practice in front of you, gravity isn't pulling the sticks down. If you practice like this, even air drums, the sticks are still being pulled down by gravity. So if you practice imagining you have a little target in front of you in the air, and that nice little drummer's V, and you're practicing your double strokes in front of you, then when you bring that motion down to the surface, it'll translate into the surface. Okay? That's really important. Open strokes. So you don't want to practice all your 16ths as 1 E and a 2 E and so I'm using closed strokes now. Okay? Really important. It's important to delineate between the two. Focus on technique. Use those back 3 fingers as one group. So whether you use Weckl grip and you don't use your index finger for your grip, or you do use your index finger for your grip, regardless, you should still be using those back 3 fingers to pull the stick into the palm of your hand. So that way you flick back, you get greatest range of motion, pull the stick into your palm of your hand. So that way those back 3 fingers are working as a group constantly to pull the stick into the palm of your hand. Okay? That way, if you practice air drums, bring it to the surface, it's going to be much easier because now all of a sudden you have a surface and gravity. Okay? That's important. That's really important. Then the one that we really want to get up to for this lesson is the 30-second notes. The first one has 16th note single strokes, double stroke 30 seconds. 1 E and a 2 E and a 30 seconds, 30 second, 30 second, 30 second, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. Okay? Try to get that up to, don't exceed your maximum, because when we start to go past whatever our level is for that week or that month, technique goes out the window. You start to tighten up, you try to muscle it out, you play wrist, or start playing the front of the stick, and you'll revert back to old habits. The way you practice is the way you're going to play, okay? And you want to have as many tools as possible in your tool belt as a drummer. You don't want to just have one way of always playing your double strokes. When you take those to the toms, playing buzz rolled or closed stroke doubles isn't going to translate into something with loose tension and not a lot of rebound. So that's why practicing open strokes are so good for your hands and technique, because then you're going to get the nice clarity and evenness of all your double strokes as you play them, okay? So that exercise again with the 16th notes, 1 E and a, 2 E and a. Okay, and I'm going to take this stuff to the snare, but I wanted to show you just directly what my hands look like in front of me, so you can see I'm looking at my hands, got my little V. Whether you use French or German, you still are using a combination of wrist and fingers instead of wrist, or buzz, or fingers, that kind of thing. You want to use conjunction of both. It's like practicing molar technique, and I'm a little hesitant to show people molar because you can injure yourself if you don't do it right. But what you're doing is that first stroke, or the push, then the pull. So it's wrist, fingers, in that motion, so that when you see your hand going, or this is how we play faster 16ths especially, that you got that rocking hand motion. Wrist, fingers. nice and relaxed. You shouldn't ever hold the stick tight. There's shock that goes up through the stick every time you hit something. If you're holding tight, that shock goes up through the stick and into your hands. Over time, you will get injured. If you have bad technique or bad habits, you hold the stick in a weird way, you do that repetitively, day after day, year after year, you're going to get injured eventually. So it's really important to focus on that technique, guys, okay? So, when we get that exercise of the 30-second notes, open stroke 30-second notes, up with that exercise, it would sound like... using your motion and timing in the right way, but you shouldn't have to rely on the rebound stroke or the pickup stroke of your fingers with a surface in order to do it. You should be able to play that technique with your hands without even having to use a surface, okay, or any rebound. So I'm going to turn the talkback mic off now so I can play them a little bit better for you. But essentially what we want to practice are both open strokes and closed strokes. For the sake of this video and not making it an hour long, but it's hard to fit all this information into one quick video, is that you want to practice both 30-second note opens, 30-second note closed, or even progress up through single stroke 16ths, single stroke 30 seconds, double stroke closed 64ths, okay? But for the sake of this right now, what I was playing, it's in 2-4, so we're only counting to 2, 1 E and a, 2 E and then your 30-second notes. 1 E and a, 2 E and a. On that hand, my hands look. Do they look the same? Am I raising my stick height to the same in my right and my left, or my dominant and my non-dominant hand? Am I bringing them down with the same velocity? Am I playing the back of the stick with my fingers? That's where all the control's at, guys, not in playing the weight of the front of the stick and guiding the front of the stick down. I see a lot of people play like pointy finger. We call this the pointy finger on top too. Don't want to do that. You want to always see this nice loose space in your hand there. Whether you use your index finger or you use your fulcrum as your middle finger like Weckl grip, you still want to see that nice open space in your hand there, okay? If it ever starts to close up on you or you find yourself trying to muscle out the notes, opposite of what you should be doing. The faster you go, the more you want to relax, not tighten up. So the difference, and I'll see a lot of people playing their doubles like this, using a kind of not a lot of technique and velocity, or, playing the back of the stick, but they're playing basically all fulcrum and using the front of the stick and the weight of the front of the stick to play buzz rolls. Kind of like that. Okay? Those are closed versus those are opens. Very important to know the difference of not only how they feel, but what it's like to play them technique-wise, okay? So last but not least, in the 16ths and 30 seconds, what I just covered, 1 E and a, 2 E and a. When I close my eyes, I'm not looking at my hands. But it's in 2-4. That's what's really important, okay? 1 E and a, 2 E and a. Okay, that's important. Then, once you get up to that, try to sustain your 30-second notes without the single stroke 16ths mixed in with them. You can just go, and you can, eventually get it up to 4 beats, multiple bar lengths, that kind of thing. But at first, you kind of want to practice them just in short bursts in 2-4, okay? So knowing that you're just feeling in two beats rather than 4 beats, but then you want to take it up and sustain it to whatever your maximum is for that week. up to whatever your maximum is for that week, sustain it, and make sure you don't start to tighten up and lose your technique and your grip and the relaxation of when you're going for it, okay? It's really important. Let the sticks do the work. Let the sticks do the work for you. There's no need to muscle every note out, or wrist, or point, that kind of thing. That's the difference. See how closed my hand is? And using 2 wrist strokes versus... Okay, big difference. But whether you use your index finger or not, you want to focus on using those back 3 fingers all as one group and loose. My hand's really loose when I'm playing. Really loose. I'm just guiding the stick down and letting the stick do the work for me, basically. But once you get up to that point of where you can play those sustained 30-second notes in open strokes, try to keep it there for about 3 minutes if you can. Set a timer, that thing. Then just gradually tack on more time. 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, that kind of thing. And just sit there and do your best to stay relaxed, because if you have to play those sustained for 10 minutes straight and you start tight and you start fast and you lose your technique, by the time you get to 10 minutes, your arms are going to be burning and you're not going to be able to sustain it. So just kind of keep it there, whatever, even if it's just a nice relaxed tempo for that week, that's fine. You'll get faster with it. The important thing is focusing on the technique part, okay? So take, for instance, a 5-stroke roll, and I'll end it here. I'll show you the difference between playing an open stroke 5 versus a closed stroke 5. I'll play the open stroke 5 first. Those are open strokes. Closed stroke 5 would look and sound like this. Where I'm doing this. Using my fulcrum point a little more, and not using very much legato stroke at all, or raising the stick height very much, and more it's all in my finger control. I call this giving the stick a bed to lie on. So these back 3 fingers, you should have the stick kind of in the pads of your fingers like that, and letting the stick do the work and the bounce for you, while you're just guiding the stick and letting it do what it naturally wants to do with its weight. It's this whole teeter-totter motion. That's why you've got your flag right there for your fulcrum point. Let the stick be loose and bounce. But that's the difference between a closed stroke and an open stroke. If you practice the opens, I promise they're going to come along over time, and they're really going to help you, because if you try to play closed strokes on a big floppy floor tom with not a lot of tension, it's not going to work out so well. Can you pull it off? Yes. But you have to kind of work with it. But then all of a sudden, if you play open strokes, much different and much cleaner and much clearer right away. So that's the reason being for using open strokes and getting those into your tool belt, or your rudiments, and knowing your technique differences of your note values while you're playing those, because as you go around the toms, you play fills with open stroke doubles, they're going to sound much, much cleaner than trying to use a buzz roll or a closed stroke on every surface you go to, okay? That's the difference between your opens and your closed, in addition to playing the back of the stick versus playing the front of the stick. Really important, guys, okay? So hopefully that helps some people with technique questions and getting the difference between only playing fulcrum, that kind of a thing. Even if I see people's fingers not dangling off to the side, they're still holding the stick like this, where I can see the stick isn't even making contact with their back fingers because of the way they're holding the stick like this, and they have a closed space in their hand. Just based upon how I see their hand being positioned, in addition to the way that they're playing, they're closed. I can tell they're using the front of the stick, not the back of the stick, in addition to all fulcrum instead of the back 3 fingers. Really important delineation. I know I keep saying that, but this confused the heck out of me for the longest time until I started working with technique and had mentorship and all that kind of stuff. So, last but not least, getting used to then playing different between open stroke 5 and a closed stroke 5 applied into your different patterns and stuff. So like an open stroke 5 or even a closed stroke 5, either one you can use as a pickup, like that kind of thing. Comes into beat 1, 4E and 1. Right, left, and you're just ending that 5 on the hi-hat with beat 1. Okay, closed strokes are great for like ghosting, that kind of stuff. Big difference though when you're playing fills or you're going around the toms and you don't have a lot of rebound on acoustic drums. Then if you played a closed stroke 5, okay, big difference, guys. So instead of using staccato notes and closer to the head and all closed strokes, and see how the stick's kind of sticking like this? That's what I see a lot of people doing. You want to try to use the back 3 fingers as your fulcrum point in addition to only pinching in the front. So try to loosen up your grip in the front a little more and focus on those back 3 fingers. So a little bit difference in technique there, okay, but it makes a giant difference in the way you practice and the way that it's eventually going to be applied and played into the drum set. So work with some open strokes for a while until you get your tempo up to almost as fast as you can play your closed. Obviously, yes, as you're playing faster and faster and faster, buzzes and playing more relaxed and closed and using the weight of the stick is going to be different than trying to sustain an open stroke roll as you go through it. But that's the difference between the two technique-wise, in addition to some exercises you can use out of this book that I just showed you on that page. Okay? So if you just pause on that page, work through that page, and then eventually get up to that 32nd note roll where you're just, using those nice big open strokes. So that way you can really hear it on the toms rather than, it'll flub out some of those notes sometimes, and depending on your head tension and all that, you might not even have enough head tension to do a close. Okay, it's just through the technique of you get used to kind of how you pull it off, but at the same time you want to have as many tools as you can as a drummer, so that way you can get all those sounds out nice and clear. Your right hand and your left hand sound the same, and you're using good technique each time you're doing it. All right, guys? So that's pretty much it for this, but I wanted to kind of make a little bit of a difference in delineating between the two, technique-wise, how you're holding the stick, playing the front of the stick versus playing the back of the stick, in addition to some exercises you can use to get up to working with your technique and your tempos and your note values, okay? Last but not least, and I'll end the video here. I know I probably said that about 5 minutes ago, but that's just how I am in my head sometimes. I want to help people get this stuff down, So last one you can practice is single stroke 16ths, single stroke 32nds, double stroke closed 64s, and that'll really help you feel the difference between your opens and closed, okay? So what I mean by that is, and you can play it in 2/4 or 4/4. Just for the sake of this, I'll do it in 2/4. But you'd be playing 1 E and 2 E and That's a great exercise. You can kind of choose whether you want to play singles for your 16ths, singles for your 32nds, and closed stroke for your 64s, or double strokes for all of them, and then closed strokes for your 64s. So you could do that too. 1 E and 2 E and that kind of a thing, okay? There's a lot of different ways you can go about it and have fun, but just know your note values, know how you're counting your syllables or feeling your downbeats, how many notes are per downbeat, and then what it's like, what it feels like, what it looks like, what it sounds like, and then putting all those elements kind of together, okay? But it's really important to know the difference and not play all your doubles only one way. Because if you're not on the snare with tight tension and you want to play quick open stroke or quick doubles on the drums or like 30-second notes, then open strokes are 100% the way to go. If you're playing on an electric kit or every surface has the same exact type of rebound, like basically a practice pad on every surface, where you've got the same rebound every surface you're playing on, your approach can be a little bit different, but it's still a phenomenal exercise to practice those opens so you get used to the technique of how you're playing it, wrist and fingers. We also call this the drop pickup. And that smaller technique, that goes into playing faster patterns up here and more relaxed because you're using wrist and fingers rather than all wrist or all fingers. So whether you're playing in any way you play, the more muscle groups you use and the more relaxed you play, the easier it's going to play, the less tired you're going to get while playing it. But you have to develop the right technique from the get-go. Otherwise, if you practice it the wrong way and develop bad habits, that's the way you're going to play them, and that's not quite the way you want to go about it, okay? But what that goes into, not only playing fills and that kind of stuff with your open stroke doubles, but the technique part of it goes into playing molar technique. That's why this stuff is important. Anytime you see your hand starting to close up, think, oh, loose. Or pinch in the front, leave those, oh, I'm leaving my back 3 fingers out. Or playing the front of the stick, oh, I'm playing the front of the stick, not the back of the stick. It's really important to be cognizant or mindful of all those different aspects while you practice it. Because I don't want to be responsible for people's injuries or developing bad habits and bad technique. So that's why I'm trying to show you loose, relax. I know the tendency is the faster we go, we try to muscle it, that kind of thing. Where you want to do the opposite. Take a deep breath, relax, use your motion, use your technique, let the sticks do the work for you. All right, guys? So there's a few exercises you can practice in addition to just quickly kind of running through the technique differences. Obviously, I can get way more in depth than this, but I don't want to make the video an hour long. So hopefully that helps some people. As you work with it, start slow, start easy where your body understands what you're trying to tell it to do. Don't try to blast all the way to your maximum speed and, oh, look how fast I can play. You're going to be playing most of the time in a wrong way or one hand. You're going to revert back to your old habits rather than developing new good habits, okay? So don't try to just, oh, let me skip levels, 2 through 8 and go from 1 to 10 or 1 to 9, whatever. But work your way up the ladder. Don't try to blast all the way to the end goal right away, okay? I promise it'll come over time through working with your technique week by week, month by month, year by year. But start now knowing the difference between closed and opens in addition to the technique differences. See the difference in addition to hear the difference. I hope it makes sense to people, okay? So start practicing your opens. It's going to help you around the kit. Then once you got it into your arsenal or your tool belt, then you can kind of learn how to apply them more, where maybe I'm going to be ghosting and playing closed strokes in my left hand, but playing open strokes in my right hand. Like the Purgy Shuffle uses that. So, and what you're playing with the Purgy Shuffle is I was about to play the full pattern, but I just wanted to, then I was like, wait, no, let me do the hands only. So, what you're going to be playing, and there's multiple ways to play it, but if you're playing something like the Purgy Shuffle, that kind of a thing, where you're ghosting and playing closed with your left while playing opens with your right. So you kind of have to learn how to apply them in different ways, but you've got to get it into your muscle memory before you can do that. All right? All right, guys, happy drumming. Hopefully that helps out a little bit with some people. I know I've had some people like, I can't play Weckle grip, or I'd be so used to playing this way that it's just like, it's hard. It is, and I had to retrain myself because I used to play my rolls like that too. All fulcrum, tight, all fulcrum and tight. Loosen up those hands and use the back of the stick. Because even when I'm playing close stroke now, I'm using those back 3 fingers as my fulcrum point. You have way more control than only using 1 finger or 2 fingers, and you're playing the front of the stick when you're doing that, versus use all those back 3 fingers and let the stick bounce on all 3 of those fingers as your fulcrum point. That kind of thing, okay? But your hand should always be loose, no matter if you're playing closed and buzz, 64th notes, whatever you're playing, versus opens. So that's the drop, pickup, drop, pickup, drop, pickup, drop, pickup, or push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. They call it different things, but that's Moeller technique. That's the difference between opens and closed, and I hope it helps some people out there. All right, guys, happy drumming. Have a great rest of your week. Take care. Love ya.